which Selma used to be such a racist town, and now we have all of these people coming from all across the country, because there were people from Africa, there were people from the UK, there was people coming from everywhere to acknowledge Bloody Sunday and to say that they won democracy. And basically, if you don't want me to work for you, if you don't want me, then I don't want to spend my money with you. But it was our vote. Another thing that was really powerful for me was the participation of the Divine Nine. Everyone knows that I'm a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And the Zetas and the Sigmas were everywhere you turn, you saw the little Deltas. Yes, the Deltas were there too. But our organization, people don't realize how impactful we were. We started in these eras of the movement, and we're still here.
Oh, my goodness.
PJC receives a lot of love.
And we are.
And I know that we've been joined by Nile Blass with the League of Women Voters. But before we go to Nile, Barbara, I've got to ask Angel this. Angel, when Miss Hunter, Erial Hunter, was speaking, the caterer, she was talking about the food, and I know you are a preacher's child, so I know you appreciated that fried chicken and those string beans. That
no, he's not going to do that. Making me hungry. So stop that.
Oh, my goodness. It was good. Warm, hot, and cold. It was just...
I wanted to ask you, though, but because while you were on that panel, you had a hot question that came up with regards to what the Black church is doing in this moment, in the movement moment, how Gen Z should be responding. And as a preacher's child, you stood up and said, I'm going to take this on. Can you share with our folks what you felt them?
Absolutely. I challenge the Black church out of love. I don't feel like we are doing everything that we can do. I feel like we're doing some of what we want to do, and we are relying on our tax-exempt statuses to keep us silent in some moments that require vigor and require audacious advocacy. Like Thurgood Marshall says, do what's right and let the law catch up. Like, we have to be able to be a space where the Black community can depend on us. In the civil rights movement, it wasn't about notoriety and what church was doing what, but the Black church. But we all know to this day that the Black church sustained, whether it was funding, whether it was a safe place to organize. The Black church was the staple in the community. We need to get back to that. We need to do what we can do and not just what we want to do. We need to build Romans 12, 9 through 18 church. I'm going to give scriptures this time. I'm going to give scriptures this time. We need to not just pretend to love, but we need to actually love and be active in that.
My, woo! Now that's a PK if I ever heard one. Come on now. We are so proud of you, Angel. I am so happy that Nile Blass has joined us. Nile is amazing. She's a law student. She is working, has been working with the League. Is a TJC fellow, a community organizer, and somebody wanted us to know that after they heard Nile on the panel the other day, they said that she is the second coming of Jasmine Crockett. Now, what was it like for you to be on that panel? I think this was the best panel we ever had. What was it like for you to be on that
Barbara,
panel?
I heard people say that Jasmine Crockett was just the appetizer, that Nile is the meal. But go ahead now.
I mean, people were saying all kinds of stuff. But please tell us, what was it like for you to be on that amazing panel with Eldric, with Janice Gentry, who is not on the show today, and with all those amazing people in the audience, that standing room audience, and all the people from the League who came to support you, and so many others. It was just amazing. Tell people what it was like for you to personally be on that panel.
Yeah, so one thing, thank you so much for the kind words. They're always appreciated. And then two, apologies for my voice. I lost it on the bridge, but it was a good place to lose it. But yeah, so I think that the panel, a lot of the work that we do right now has to be action-oriented, and I think that's what I really appreciated about the conversation we're having. I think a lot of people feel like those who are in the positions to protect them, to guarantee their rights, are either not acting or are acting in direct conflict with that. And so I think what I appreciated most was that we weren't just grounded in the institutions. We were saying yes, there are petitions and letters and town halls to be had, but similar to the circumstances of Selma, the civil rights movement at large, the fight is our fight. No one's coming to save us. We have to save us, and we've saved ourselves before. And so I think that being the arc was really important, because I think that leaves people feeling like there's something that I could do tomorrow in my neighborhood, on my block, in my region, or in my state to make things better for myself, the people who look like me and the people who don't.
Wow. Go on now. And Eldridge, during the panel, there was one moment where there was a collective gasp throughout the room where everybody was like, oh, my goodness. And that was when you were speaking and telling them about your voter registration work that you did in 2024, and everybody's sitting there knowing that we're in, Congresswoman Sewell's district, but also right next door is, Congressional District 2, that's covering, the mighty, that just was created because of all the litigation and hard work over decades to make sure that congressional district existed, and you did some amazing work. Just tell our audience, remind them, because one thing we wanted people to know is that the people on this panel weren't just talkers, they were workers, and that they had done the work. Even at your young age, tell people what you told the audience.
Well, I was met with the challenge last year when I was told that we were going to have a new congressional district in Alabama, and the district was majority black. So I knew that we had to get out and we had to put our boots on the ground, as some people would say, and work. So through strategizing with all of the HBCUs in Alabama and some PWIs as well, and local youth councils in Alabama for the NAACP, and of course with TJC, we were able to register over 3,000 voters under my leadership in the NAACP Youth and College Division in the state of Alabama. And that's not even including the work that we did with TJC and like Arizona and the work that we've done across the country with other organizations. But in the state of Alabama alone, we were able to register over 3,000 voters.
Wow. Daryl, that says it all, doesn't it? I mean, it's just amazing. And now I know that you were out there doing all of those voter days and all of that work in Maryland. Tell people quickly, just what were you able to make happen during this last election?
Yeah, so wonderful opportunities, for one, to work with the TJC. So there was the Baltimore and several other votercades that we did through the communities, just elevating the fact that we have this general election, that it was of significant consequence. And even when we're looking at Maryland, Maryland brought us one of two black women senators, right? Some first in history. So those communities were valuable to touch base with.
Yes.
But across the country, we were collaborating with HBCUs and the NAACP to do voter registration, to train people in poll watching, to ensure that the other rights of other voters are being maintained, that they know what it looks like to see suppression in real action. We had opportunities to not just go where the traditional politics are, but go where the culture and the people were. So we're partnering with local restaurants, saying, hey, free fries for a free registration card, which is also why we got to fight the SAVE Act, because so much of what we did that allowed us to integrate ourselves into our communities would be essentially made obsolete and illegal if that acts. But working with HBCUs, working within Black church and other cultural spaces, meeting people who can't can't leave their homes. So are we going door to door and making sure that you have the opportunity to access these registration drive informations, who's going to be on your ballot? We did so much on the ground, intimate community work is what I'd say. While we had so many of our other teams doing the institutional, traditional work, I think both those tracks have to run parallel to make sure that our democracy is accessible to all, and I think that we were able to really invest and ensure that. And with our, young voter power initiative, right? So us identifying and bringing into the fold, not just the political science students, though we do have a couple, but so many people who are working in STEM, who are working in housing, who are working in education, who are coming from communities geographically, racially, or otherwise, where we don't always invest and see the future of our politics, and making sure that they have the opportunities and resources, not just to be told what to do, but to be given the opportunity to execute their visions for their communities.
Wow.
And
Angel, go ahead.
Angel, one of the interesting things, and I thought about it as Nile was talking, Angel, one of the interesting things is as packed as that room was for the Gen Z Young Millennial Forum, there was a group that were 2 feet away from you in the very first row, and they were Gen Alpha. And the concept was, and I want to see if it merited out, the concept was to have Gen Alpha up in your face as Gen Z, to make you say to them what you're going to do to try to pave the way for them to follow you. Was that the impact that had on you, Angel? Did it have that impact? I mean, to have them that close. I mean, folks, they were literally across the table from you. Did it have that impact?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely made me more careful with my words, especially with the jargon that we use. I think it's very important to understand that while we are in these spaces all the time, that our youth are new to these spaces, and we don't want to make them feel inadequate or as if they can't do the words because they can't understand the words, So having it in my face, I was trying to be more strategic about the language that I used and making things more personal to them. I am familiar with that group, the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence project right here in Jacksonville, Florida. So I tried to give them things that they could do in their school system and things that I know that they could actually take home with them. So it did definitely challenge me in that moment to have like a quick thinking, like TJC taught me to always be able to pivot. So.
All right, now there you go. Well, let us talk about one other aspect. Everybody listening, know that Congress was there in force. Hakeem Jeffries was there. You had, all kinds of congressional members who were there. And the leader of the hour, of course, was Congresswoman Terry Sewell, because that's her district. And she was very focused on one thing, that this wasn't just a commemoration, this just wasn't a celebration, but there was work to be done right now. And she used that week, that on March 5th, right before Bloody Sunday's activity started in Selma, Alabama this year, she made sure on the floor of Congress to reintroduce the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Folks, if you're listening to me, you know that every time we do this show, we talk about voter suppression. We talk about the barriers that voters face. We talk about these states that have this history of racial discrimination in voting who still are allowed to skate and the lie, before judges about, why they do these racially negative, procedures and map drawing and all kinds of things. We talked to you about South Carolina and, the Alexander case. We talked to you about, the Landis case that's happening, the laundry case that's happening right now out of Louisiana. We talked to you about cases all over the country. The issue is what this act would do is that all of those states that have a history of racial discrimination would be required to pre-submit for review prior to their enacting any law. They wouldn't be able to implement any law affecting voting without proving that it had a non-discriminatory effect. That is key. It also would have a national notice provision that, right now these states and localities get away with murder because they basically institute changes in election procedures like reducing polling places. Do you know that right now, folks, as we talk, in the last 10 years, they have reduced over 4,000 election sites when the population has grown significantly, meaning that we need more, not less. But this is done purposefully to make it difficult for people to vote. And it's so